The James Harden Clippers have been an absolute disaster. They have gone from one of the best teams in the league pre-trade to one of the worst teams in the league post-trade. And there are a lot of issues, all of which we're going to talk about in the video today, but also we need to figure out how are they supposed to fix this, because I do think that this is still a fixable situation and the Clippers can still be contenders with James Harden on the roster. Really quickly though, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Prize Picks. If you've never tried Prize Picks before, this week is an awesome time to get started. I've got a couple of different offers for you, and of course on Thursday, this Thanksgiving, there's going to be a ton of football. There's going to be basketball all week as well, and Prize Picks is giving you a free square. If Christian McCaffrey gets 1 yard on Thursday, that is a square that you can use within your selections. I've still got more offers for you later on, but I want to let you know about the free square right in the beginning. Now, if you've never done Prize Picks before, all you do is you go onto the site and it's just you against the numbers. You pick more or less for each of these numbers that Prize Picks has set. You pick between 2 and 6 selections, and if you get them correct, you can win up to 25 times your money. And like I said earlier, you have that Christian McCaffrey free square to get you started already as one of your selections. So like I said, if you've never done Prize Picks before, this is an awesome week to get started with that free square selection. You can mix and match between different sports. You can do all kinds of different players. They have all kinds of different numbers for you. Just go on there, check out the numbers, pick more or less for between 2 and 6. And first time depositors can get a 100% deposit match up to $100 when they use code SPORTING as well. That link is in the description. You can use code SPORTING for a 100% deposit match up to $100. You can deposit $100, get $100, have $200, and have the free square this Thursday with Christian McCaffrey with that 1 rushing yard. Now is an awesome time to get started with Prize Picks. Use that code, that link in the description as well. And thank you again to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's video. Now, first and foremost, what are the problems? Now, if you're interested in like a bigger, super in-depth, longer breakdown version of this actual on-court stuff, I have actually made a video about that. You can check that out here. I'll be sure to put a card at the top of the screen for that. But more briefly than that, so that this video is in 25 minutes, the Clippers have a few issues. One is that they're just not accustomed to playing together, especially the stars all together. The Clippers have a hard time starting and finishing games well because Harden plus Kawhi plus Paul George plus, more importantly, Russell Westbrook and Zubac, that group collectively together is just not playing well, and they're trying to figure out a way to mesh two very different styles together, and that is this physical style that they had before James Harden, and then now this new version where they have Harden out there creating stuff. The way that they fix that is just time. This is something that's going to take a little bit of time. They're going to have to figure out a way to get those guys to play well together, to get good shots together. That is something that they can still fix by just playing together. We don't all have to freak out just a handful of games into the new James Harden era. The other problem they have is defensively. They have not been good with Harden on the floor, and that is just something that is going to be a problem for you when you have James Harden on your team. Rebounding and defense are going to be a problem. The other 4 guys are going to have to pick up the slack in that area. That's the way that it has been for the entirety of his career. The way that you counteract that is that you are one of the best offensive teams in the entire league, and that you have someone in James Harden that you prioritize offensively and that you make everything work around him. And the way that you do that is by having a ton of spacing. And this to me is the first and the biggest issue with how things have been going so far, is that I don't think that a lineup that includes Harden, Russ, and Zubac all on the floor at the same time is one that is going to work for them. They need to change some pieces. They need to add some pieces to this group. And unfortunately for Russ, he's not going to be able to play as much as he has since he's gotten to the Clippers. He's been good for them, but what you need when Harden is out there is spacing, and Russ just does not provide enough of it. Those are their primary issues right now, is trying to get all their stars to play well together. They need to guard better and rebound better, and they need to have better spacing, and that comes down to lineup choices, and more importantly, what we're going to be talking about in the video today, it comes down to roster changes and roster construction. This cannot be the final version of the team post James Harden trade if they really want to truly contend. They need a better option at the 5 spot than Zubac, who has been terrible to begin this season. Yes, he's a good offensive rebounder. Yes, he's a decent roller to the rim, but he's not a very good fit with Harden. And more importantly, he just hasn't played well. And if you're going to have him out there as the non-spacer, he needs to play well, or alternatively, you can go out and get a floor spacing front court player so that you can play Russ and Harden and Kawhi and Paul George, all 4 of those guys together. If you can go out and find a big that can protect the rim a little bit and can space the floor, that can give them a lot lot of options. That would be the first thing I would do in terms of trying to fix this team, is really fully evaluate the 5 spot and look at options around the league. 1, for one that can shoot, and 2, just a better 5-man option in general. If you can't do that, the other option would be something that we saw in Houston at times, and that is for them to just go much smaller. They have PJ Tucker there, who's been good as a small ball 5. They still have Kawhi and Paul George, bigger wings you can have out there to sustain smaller units the way that they have done the entirety of the time that Ty Lue has been there. And in those scenarios, yeah, you can probably make it work with Russ out there at the same time. The problem is the Harden trade took away a lot of their options when it comes to a small ball unit. Nick Batum, Robert Covington, even Morris, these guys were important for them, Morris less so, in terms of how they wanted to put these small ball units together. And yes, PJ Tucker helps, but they need more of those guys. They need to go out and find a couple more wings that they can play, because as good as Terrence Mann or Powell have been at times, they don't fit as well in those small ball units. And I say all of this to say that even as bad as it has looked already early on for the Clippers, this is a fixable situation. This is something that you can add pieces, change some things in terms of how you play, and the Clippers aren't going to be terrible forever, I don't think. Having said that, it's certainly easy to argue at this point that they shouldn't have made the Harden trade in the first place, that they maybe should have tried to make the trade a while ago so that they would have more time to integrate all these players together, that maybe they should have recognized that the strength of their team was their ability to play big or small and this physical style that they would play around Paul George and Kawhi, and they didn't need this perimeter creator in Harden that they're struggling to integrate into their team. That is certainly an easy argument to make, and this idea that they regret the trade, that's definitely out there right now. Here's what I would say though, in terms of as I'm watching these Clippers games, yes, there's issues, and they had issues before the Harden trade despite how well they were playing in the moment. He is creating some good stuff for them offensively, and when they're letting him just be himself and run ball screen stuff and have good spacing on the floor, it does work, and it is something that they can create really good offensive and two-way units with him out there. I just think that it's going to take some time for them to figure out their best groups and to change their roster around in a way that works around Harden, because as good as he is and as good as he's been his entire career, he's always needed a certain kind of team around him. He's always needed a ton of spacing. He's always needed everybody to play within their role, and if they're going to maximize themselves as a team, that's the kind of team that they're now going to have to transform into. And I still believe that there's a version of this team, as they change things around, as they get more comfortable, they can still be a semi-contender. And, you know, late in games, Harden can still be someone that creates a lot of really good offense for them. And if they can just figure out a way to mesh these three guys together, then individually, their talent level should allow them to push past a lot of the teams in the Western Conference. There are a lot of teams right now around the league that are struggling to begin the season. And yes, it's unfortunate how much things have switched up for the Clippers, just going from one trade to the next, and how good they were pre-trade and how bad they've been post-trade. But I still have hope for this team. I'm not even like the biggest James Harden guy by any means, but there are constructions here that they can try and fix this and turn things around. And this is going to be a team certainly that's going to be motivated with all these assets that they've invested in this team to continue to change things, to try and make things work. And as we get closer to the trade deadline, as some teams maybe start to give up on their season, there's going to be options out there for them to try and upgrade this roster, to try and improve their spacing, to try and improve their team at the 5 spot, get better defensively, and have a more James Harden-like team. Because like it or not, this is what you have to do when he's on the team, and they should have been prepared to do this. Hopefully they are prepared to do this once they made the deal. Hopefully they understand the situation that they're in, and they don't just try and continue to make things work, because they're very much a team that isn't constructed properly post-Harden trade, and I'm hopeful that they can still figure that out.